So Liverpool are back in Premier League action this weekend when they face Brighton at Anfield, and it's perhaps a bigger game than it usually would be because of the circumstances surrounding the title race. Obviously this weekend after the international break, Manchester City host Arsenal at the Etihad Stadium, and therefore Liverpool have a chance to win their game and go top and obviously stay there if the result goes the right way for them at the Etihad Stadium. So as I say, a pretty big game for Liverpool, and important that they hold up their end of the bargain and get the 3 points on board, and then they can sit back and watch City and Arsenal go at each other and see what happens there and see where they will end up after the weekend. Now, I've just been speaking to Jurgen Klopp there at the AXA Training Centre behind me ahead of this game. He's hosting his press conference as per usual on Friday, and loads of talking points from this press conference to get into. And I'll start with probably the most important news, and I always tend to start with this, and that is of course the team news. What is the squad looking like going into this crucial part of the season now? A few updates in there, quite a lot actually to get into, and I'll start with a couple of players who were absent from training yesterday in the footage that we saw there that Sky Sports were running. That is Curtis Jones and Ibrahima Konate. A few worries about them. Of course, Curtis Jones, we always expected him to be back after the international break, and Konate, always a worry when he's absent because obviously he's got that record in terms of picking up injuries and missed that final game, didn't he, before the international break, despite representing France across the international break. So we had an explanation from Klopp in terms of where they were at, and that is because Curtis Jones, we're hearing, is going to be back in training today, so great news on that front. And similarly with Konate, he again is expected to train today. He was apparently just given a little bit of extra rest because of those exertions on international duty, so Liverpool just looking after him. As I say, he is prone to muscle injuries, isn't he, so it's always worth giving him that extra day. So both of those going to be back in training, so should be part of the squad to face Brighton. So I think that is a big boost for Liverpool going into this run. And a couple more updates as well in there. Obviously, Andy Robertson is not going to be available for this one. He turned his ankle, didn't he, quite badly on international duty with Scotland, but I thought Jurgen Klopp was kind of upbeat about this one, didn't make it sound too bad. I mean, he literally used the phrase, it's not as bad in terms of as people may have feared, and just said they'll go day by day with him and see when he stops feeling pain and stuff, but it doesn't look like it's anything that will need surgery. It's definitely not a season-ending one. So Liverpool, you'd have to say, maybe got away with one there, been a bit lucky, but that is luck that they've definitely earned with the other injuries that they've got. And as I say that, I continue down the lengthy injury list, and a few more to get into here. Trent, Alexander-Arnold, Alisson, Jota, they were all part of a Klopp update as well, and he said all three of them should be able to be part of team training next week, or do parts of team training next week. When that makes them available, we'll have to see. Obviously, there's a Sheffield United game on the Thursday, and then it's away to Manchester United as well. So, you know, whether they can play part in the first of those two fixtures or whether it'll be getting them back for the latter, either way, I think it would be a big boost, because obviously that's three very, very important players, and to have them anywhere around the squad for that would be absolutely massive. And just one more left on the injury updates, and that's a long-term absentee, Stefan Bajcetic. Only 2 appearances this season because of that issue he's been having with pain around his adductor, but he's getting closer and closer. And a further update on him again today. Apparently he's going to rejoin training with the under-21s next week as he looks to sort of step up his fitness and get himself back in first team contention. I always say about Bajcetic, it's not necessarily about having him as a starter for the rest of this season, but if you can have him coming off the bench as a sub late in games to give others rest and just play a small part to work himself back in, that would be massive. And I think training with the under-21s, that's another step up again, so he's much closer than he has ever been this season really to first team training, so looking forward to getting him back. And as I say, that's a big step for him. Now, it wasn't just all about team news in the press conference today, of course, other talking points in there, and the biggest one around Liverpool over the past couple of days has been the fact that Xabi Alonso is no longer in the running to be the new Liverpool manager. He is going to stay at Bayer Leverkusen for at least another season. Now, Jurgen Klopp was asked about that, and he didn't really want to talk about the Liverpool element, about Xabi Alonso being the next Liverpool manager and ruling himself out of that aspect. But he did want to talk about the fact it's a young manager who's made the decision to stick with the club that's given him a chance, and has taken the decision at this early stage in his managerial career that he doesn't necessarily need to make the move yet to a Liverpool or a Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, 3 of the clubs who were sniffing about him. And he's compared it actually to a decision he made himself when he was a young manager. Obviously, he'd had a lot of success early in his reign at Borussia Dortmund, and there was a lot of clubs sniffing around him and asking about the possibility if they could get him away from Dortmund, but he made the decision to stay there, keep learning, eventually obviously ended up at Liverpool after I think 8 years in charge at Dortmund. So And he says he looks back on that decision and never regrets it once, so thinks that that, again, is a wise move from Alonso to stay at Leverkusen a little bit longer, learn a lot more while he's on the job there, and keep that squad together is the expectation. And so he thinks it's a wise move from Alonso, so no regrets on that part. And, of course, the fact that Alonso is now out of the running brings alternatives into the mix. Obviously, Ruben Amorim at Sporting is one of those. I'm going to have a video coming on Amorim, actually, so keep your eyes out for that and really assess his chances. And the other, of course, who's been mentioned frequently as being in the frame is Roberto De Zerbi at Brighton. And now, because Liverpool were facing Brighton, it was a good opportunity for us journalists to stealthily throw in a few questions about De Zerbi and why he's such a good manager. And he actually spoke at length about him. We're really, really interested in a few of the things he said. Actually, I've pulled a quote here. We were the first opposition when he joined the club and we had no clue what to expect. It was impressive how quick he got the team in his way, and since then it only got better. So really, really impressed with how De Zerbi does things. And what I thought was kind of interesting, actually, he said, you know, what makes him so dangerous is the way they play football. He says it's slightly, you know, it's possession based but slightly different to Manchester City, and he just said at one point, I couldn't coach that. He said it doesn't mix with my personality. So he obviously thinks De Zerbi plays football in a very, very different way to him. Whether that's a factor that Liverpool have to decide in terms of who their next manager will be, whether they want someone who's stylistically a little bit closer to Klopp because of the way this squad has been built, we will of course have to see. But it was interesting that Jurgen Klopp said that, and said that there's real marked differences between the way him and De Zerbi play football, though he did admit that he absolutely loves watching Brighton, thinks he's a really, really brilliant coach, and I think anyone who watches Brighton can absolutely see that. So going to wrap it up there for the press conference review. Obviously a big one coming up. Please do let me know in the comments how you're feeling about this. Do you think Liverpool have got a great chance of finishing this weekend top of the Premier League? And in fact, will they go on and win the Premier League? Let me know how you're feeling about that ahead of this huge part of the run-in now. It's getting really, really nervous now, isn't it? And as usual, I'll ask if you can like and subscribe. Always a massive help to me. And of course, I'll be back from Anfield to do my post-match review, so I'll see you then.